When Katt Williams walked into Elite Cut's barbershop in Detroit, he expected a simple haircut. Instead, the owner took one look at him and said, "We don't serve your kind here." What Katt did next would transform not just the barbershop, but an entire neighborhood. The late afternoon Detroit sun cast long shadows across East 7 Mile Road as Katt Williams' rental car pulled up outside Elite Cut's barbershop. He had been driving around the city for hours after his show at the Fox Theater the night before, reminiscing about his early days in comedy when Detroit audiences had first embraced his raw, unfiltered style. The barbershop looked like 1,000 others in urban America. Red, white, and blue poles spinning outside, hand-painted. Signs advertising cuts and shaves and large windows that let passers-by see the chairs and conversations inside. What caught Katt's attention was how immaculately maintained everything appeared. The storefront was freshly painted, the windows were spotless, and there was an obvious pride in the presentation. Katt needed a haircut badly. 3 weeks of touring had left his usually precise grooming looking rough around the edges, and he had a magazine photo shoot the next day in Chicago. Most celebrities would have called ahead to a high-end salon, but Katt had always preferred neighborhood barbershops. That's where the real conversations happened, where you could feel the pulse of the community. A small bell chimed as Katt pushed open the glass door and stepped inside. The barbershop was exactly what he expected. 4 chairs, all occupied, with a small waiting area featuring mismatched chairs and a television playing daytime talk shows. The smell of aftershave and hair tonic filled the air, mixed with the sounds of clippers buzzing and men talking about everything from sports to politics. The conversation stopped the moment Katt entered. 3 of the 4 barbers looked up from their work, and Katt could see recognition dawning on their faces. The 4th barber, an older man with graying hair and muscular forearms, continued, working on his customer's fade, but Katt could see his eyes tracking in the mirror. "Well, well," said one of the younger barbers, a man in his 30s with intricate designs shaved into his own hair. "Look what the cat dragged in." Katt smiled and approached the reception area, where a heavy-set man in his 50s sat behind a small desk. This was clearly the owner. Everything about his posture and the way the other barbers glanced at him suggested authority. "Good afternoon," Katt said politely. "I was hoping to get a cut and shape-up. Y'all taking walk-ins?" The owner, whose name tag read Maurice, looked Katt up and down slowly, his expression hardening with each second. The barber shop, which had been buzzing with conversation moments before, fell completely silent except for the hum of clippers and the television. "We don't serve your kind here," Maurice said flatly, not bothering to lower his voice. Katt blinked, certain he had misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "You heard me. We don't serve troublemakers, drug users, or people who give our community a bad name." Maurice's voice was loud enough for everyone in the shop to hear clearly. "Find somewhere else to get your hair cut." The other customers had stopped even pretending to read magazines or watch television. Everyone was staring now, waiting to see how this confrontation would unfold. Katt could feel the tension in the room like a physical presence. "Sir," Katt said, keeping his voice calm and respectful, "I think there might be some misunderstanding. I'm just looking for a haircut." "No misunderstanding," Maurice replied, standing up from his desk. He was a big man, easily 6'2" and well over 200 pounds. "I know exactly who you are, Katt Williams. I seen you on the news, heard about all your arrests and problems. This is a family establishment. We don't need that kind of element in here." One of the younger barbers, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, spoke up. "Oh, come on, Maurice. The man just wants a haircut." "Stay out of this, Jerome," Maurice snapped. "My shop, my rules." Katt looked around the barber shop, taking in the faces of the other customers and barbers. Some looked embarrassed by their boss's behavior. Others seemed to be waiting for Katt to explode or cause a scene. A few nodded in agreement with Maurice, their expressions suggesting they shared his sentiment. For a moment, Katt felt the familiar surge of anger that had gotten him into trouble so many times before. His first instinct was to respond with the sharp tongue that had made him famous, to tear this man down, with words, to use his celebrity status to embarrass Maurice in front of his customers and employees. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the shame he saw in some of the faces around the room, or maybe it was the memory of his grandmother's voice telling him that responding to hate with hate only created more hate. "You know what, Mr. Maurice?" Katt said, his voice remaining calm. "You're absolutely right." Maurice looked surprised. clearly expecting a different response. "I have made mistakes," Katt continued. "I have been arrested. I have struggled with personal issues that played out in public. You have every right to protect your business and your community." "Damn right I do," Maurice said, though he seemed confused by Katt's reasonable tone. "But I'd like to ask you something," Katt said. "What if I could prove to you that I'm not the person you think I am? What if I could show you that people can change? That mistakes don't have to define someone forever?" "What are you talking about?" Maurice asked suspiciously. Katt pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the number he was looking for. "I'm talking about giving people second chances. I'm talking about judging someone by their actions, not their reputation." He pressed the call button and put the phone on speaker. After 3 rings, a woman's voice answered. "Anderson Community Center, this is Sarah." "Hi, Sarah, this is Katt Williams. Is Mrs. Washington available?" "Oh, my goodness, Mr. Williams. Yes, let me get her right away." Maurice and everyone else in the barbershop listened as footsteps could be heard rushing across what sounded like a gymnasium floor. "Katt, baby," came the voice of an elderly woman. "How are you? Are you still coming to read to the children next week?" "Yes, ma'am, Mrs. Washington. I'll be there Tuesday afternoon, like we planned. I was actually calling because I'm in a barbershop right now where the owner doesn't think I'm the kind of person who should be around families and children." "What?" Mrs. Washington's voice was sharp with disbelief. "Who is this fool?" Katt looked directly at Maurice. "His name is Maurice, and he owns Elite Cuts on 7 Mile. He's concerned about my reputation." "You put that man on the phone right now," Mrs. Washington demanded. Maurice reluctantly took the phone from Katt. "Hello? Maurice Johnson, is that you?" Mrs. Washington's voice was stern. "Yes, ma'am," Maurice replied, suddenly sounding like a child being scolded. "Boy, have you lost your mind? Katt Williams has been volunteering at our community center for 2 years. He reads to children, mentors young men, and has donated more money to this neighborhood than anyone else I know. He's here every month, rain or shine, helping kids who don't have positive male role models in their lives." Maurice's expression began to change as he listened. "Furthermore," Mrs. Washington continued, "this man has been clean and sober for over 2 years. He goes to therapy, he works on himself, and he uses his own struggles to help other people avoid the same mistakes. You should be honored to have him in your establishment." Maurice handed the phone back to Katt, his face showing a mixture of shame and confusion. "Mrs. Washington," Katt said, "I appreciate you speaking up for me, but Mr. Maurice has every right to run his business as he sees fit." "No, he doesn't," Mrs. Washington replied firmly. "Not when he's judging people based on old news instead of current actions. Katt, you tell that man that Dolores Washington said he owes you an apology." After ending the call, Katt looked around the barbershop at the faces staring back at him. The atmosphere had shifted completely from hostility to curiosity. "Look," Katt said, addressing the room, "I understand why people might have concerns about me. I've made my mistakes very publicly, and I take responsibility for that. But I'd like to make you all a proposal." "What kind of proposal?" Jerome asked. "Give me a chance to prove that people can change. Let me get my hair cut here today, and if I cause any problems, if I'm disrespectful or inappropriate in any way, I'll leave and never come back. But if I prove to you that I'm just a man trying to do better, maybe you'll judge me by who I am now instead of who I used to be." Maurice stood silent for a long moment, clearly wrestling with his preconceptions. Finally, one of his customers spoke up. "Man, give the brother a chance," said an older gentleman, getting a straight razor shave. "We all got stuff in our past we ain't proud of. Besides," added another customer, "Mrs. Washington don't lie about nobody. If she says he's good people, that's enough for me." Maurice looked around at his customers and employees, all of whom were now nodding in agreement. Finally, he sighed and gestured toward an empty chair. "Jerome, clean up your station. Mr. Williams, you can have a seat." For the next hour, Katt sat in Jerome's chair while the young barber gave him one of the best cuts he'd ever received. But more importantly, he talked with the men in the shop about life, responsibility, redemption, and second chances. He learned that Maurice had opened the barbershop 15 years ago after his own brush with the law, determined to create a positive space for the community. He discovered that Jerome was working his way through barber college while supporting his mother and younger sister. He heard stories from customers about their own struggles and triumphs. "You know what?" Maurice said as Jerome finished up Katt's cut. "I owe you an apology. I let old information override new evidence, and that ain't right." "No apology necessary," Katt replied. "You were protecting something you care about. I respect that. "But I was wrong about you," Maurice insisted, "and I want to make it right." 3 months later, Elite Cuts had become the unofficial headquarters for Katt's youth mentorship program. Every Saturday morning, young men from the neighborhood would gather at the barbershop for free haircuts, life skills workshops, and conversations about making positive choices. Maurice, who had initially turned Katt away, became one of his strongest supporters and closest friends. Jerome finished barber college with help from a scholarship fund Katt established, and several other young men from the program went on to start their own businesses. The barbershop's walls became covered with photos from community events, graduation ceremonies, and success stories. But in the center of it all hung a simple sign that read, "Judge by character, not by reputation." You know what I learned that day? Katt told a group of young men during one of their Saturday sessions. "I learned that changing people's minds isn't about arguing or getting angry. It's about showing them a different version of yourself and giving them permission to see you differently." Maurice, now one of Katt's closest friends, nodded in agreement. "And I learned that sometimes the person you're quickest to judge is exactly the person you need to meet." The story of Elite Cuts became legendary in Detroit, not just because a celebrity had been turned away, but because it showed how powerful it could be when people chose understanding over judgment, growth over grudges, and second chances over permanent labels. Because sometimes the most important transformations happen not on stage or screen, but in everyday places, where ordinary people choose to see the extraordinary potential in everyone who walks through their door.